The Thylacine, otherwise known as the Tasmanian Tiger, could have lived much later than experts previously thought. New research published in the journal Science of the Total Environment and led by a University of Tasmania professor suggests the carnivorous marsupials could have even been extant into the 1980s and beyond, and, tantalisingly, the animal could still be alive. Professor of Environmental Sustainability Barry Brooks said the team used techniques known as uncertainty modelling and sensitivity analysis to ascertain that extinction likely occurred within 4 decades of the last capture, so around the 1940s to 1970s. He added, "But we found through further analysis that extinction might have even been as recent as the late 1980s to early 2000s, with a very small chance that it still persists in the remote southwestern wilderness areas." The dog-like animal is totally unrelated to canines and only appears similar due to convergent evolution. Ironically, the introduction of canines is likely to have played an important part in its demise. The animal is thought, by conventional scientific standards at least, to have gone extinct in the 1930s due to excessive hunting and the proliferation of the introduced dingo population. However, sightings have allegedly persisted. The team of researchers, which included experts from the US, the UK and France, re-examined a database of 1,237 thylacine sightings from 1910 and later, looking to plausibility rather than whether the accounts were supported by physical evidence. Some accounts around the time the last animal died in captivity in 1936 or shortly after included physical evidence like an image or pelt, but visual sightings continued long after that. Professor Brooks said, "In terms of physical evidence, there's formal modelling you can do from the last observed animal in the species that tells you how long you'd expect to wait until the species was extinct." He added, "If you take that hard approach to evidence, it comes to the unsurprising conclusion that they were probably gone by the early 1940s, but if you take a more lenient definition of evidence, after the bounty period, they were often recorded but not captured, so we know they were around." With that type of evidence, you have to ask, how plausible is it that some of those records are valid? There are some cases that seem, on the face of it, to be extremely plausible, like Hans Narding from 1982. Narding was a park ranger at Tagari in the far northwest of Tasmania. While parked up one night in driving rain, he said he saw a fully grown male thylacine for about a minute, but did not have a camera, so had no way of capturing the evidence on film. That sighting caused a sensation and led to a year-long search by Parks and Wildlife, who ultimately drew a blank. Professor Brooks said, "You could say, well, that was a delusion, and that's possible, but it's also possible he saw a thylacine." In contrast to the creditable Narding sighting, there are some highly implausible testimonies from tourists who claim to have seen dog-like animals by the side of the road. Professor Brooks added, "Based on the relative plausibility of some of these records, the thylacine probably persisted into the 1960s and maybe into the 1980s, and, with some extremely slight possibility, maybe even longer than that." Commenting on the likelihood of the species persisting to this day, Professor Brooks said, "I don't think it is possible. It's a wild, vast area, and there aren't many people or much activity, that's true, but the thylacine was a large, wide-ranging predator, and there have been enough cameras out there, especially over the last 10 years, to say it's just not there. You could have entertained that hypothesis 10 or 15 years ago, when there hadn't been much scientific effort out there, but there has been now, and we still haven't found any trace." But the academic said the possibility could not be completely ruled out. There's enough game and habitat, plenty of places to hide, so there's a tiny possibility, but my probability estimate would be that it's 99% likely they're extinct now. The findings were not welcomed in all quarters, however. Animal biologist Nick Mooney said the study used methodology and modelling that were perfectly all right, but the problem is the original data is very fragile. He added, "That's just hearsay essentially, so the quality of the original information that it is based on is the problem, not the study itself." But Mr. Mooney did concede there was a chance the creatures could have existed after the 1930s and into the present. He said, "There's a remote possibility, I think, that the animal might still be there, but it's very unlikely and diminishing as we speak." So what do you think? Let me know in the comments below, and don't forget to like, share and most importantly subscribe. And you can also support the channel on Subscribestar via the link in the description. Thanks for watching. Bye for now.